Have you ever found yourself trapped in the same destructive pattern with women, wondering why you keep attracting those who leave you emotionally drained, confused, and questioning your own sanity? The answer lies deeper than you think, not in them, but within you. Today, you're about to discover the hidden archetypal forces Carl Jung uncovered that silently drive both your attraction patterns and women's deepest emotional behaviors. This isn't surface-level dating advice. This is about the unconscious shadows that have been controlling your relationships without your knowledge or consent. The pain you feel when that seemingly perfect woman suddenly transforms into someone unrecognizable, shifting from loving to cold, from supportive to manipulative, isn't random. It's a psychological pattern rooted in your unconscious, and understanding it will be your liberation. Most men spend their entire lives blaming external circumstances, or worse, blaming women themselves, never realizing they're trapped in an archetypal dance orchestrated by their own unintegrated psyche. But you don't have to remain caught in this cycle. By understanding the feminine archetypes Jung discovered and, more importantly, how your own inner feminine aspect, your anima, shapes your attractions, you can finally break free from this destructive pattern. According to Jung, every man carries within him an unconscious feminine counterpart, the anima. This isn't just a concept, it's a living psychological reality that shapes how you perceive, interact with, and are attracted to women. Your anima isn't a woman, it's a complex psychic structure that embodies everything you feel, idealize, fear, or reject about the feminine universe. Think of those moments when you've been instantly, almost irrationally drawn to a woman you barely know. That wasn't just physical attraction, it was your anima recognizing something familiar, something it needs for your psychological development. Your anima seeks expression through your relationships, especially romantic ones. When your anima is wounded, immature, or completely unconscious, you don't choose women with your heart or even your mind. You choose with your unhealed wounds. Your attractions aren't preferences, they're projections. And the more fragmented your relationship with your own inner feminine soul, the more you'll attract women who externally enact this internal conflict. Those toxic women, domineering, unstable, manipulative, aren't random bad luck. They are living manifestations of your own distorted anima. They don't appear to destroy you but to mirror you. They are shadow messengers of what you still refuse to see in yourself. Your emotional vulnerability, your need for control, your dependence on validation, your repression of the sensitive and intuitive feminine within you. When you find yourself repeatedly drawn to women who eventually reveal destructive patterns, you're experiencing what Jung called shadow projection. The qualities that most disturb you about these women, their emotional volatility, their need for constant validation, their manipulation tactics, are aspects of your own shadow that you've denied and suppressed. You've likely noticed that you don't just attract any kind of toxic woman. You attract specific types that trigger you in remarkably consistent ways. This isn't coincidence. The particular brand of toxicity that finds you is precisely calibrated to your own unacknowledged wounds and disowned parts. Remember the last time you felt completely blindsided by a woman's behavior? That moment when you thought, "How could I have missed these red flags?" You missed them because, unconsciously, those weren't red flags to you. They were familiar signals that resonated with your own unresolved inner conflicts. A man who fears his own emotional dependency will attract women who swing between neediness and cold withdrawal. A man who denies his own controlling tendencies will find himself with manipulative partners. A man who has buried his own capacity for jealousy and possessiveness will somehow always end up with pathologically jealous women. This isn't karma or bad luck, it's psychology. Your unconscious doesn't want comfort, it wants completion. It will continue attracting what you need to face, not what you want to experience, until you integrate these disowned aspects of yourself. Jung and his followers identified 4 primary feminine archetypes that exist within the collective unconscious. Each has a light aspect and a shadow aspect, and understanding them reveals the complex emotional landscape of women and your own attraction patterns. 1. The mother. Light, nurturing, shadow, devouring. The mother archetype in her positive form represents unconditional love, nurturing, and safety. But in her shadow form, she becomes the devouring mother, overprotective, guilt-inducing, and emotionally suffocating. If you repeatedly attract women who initially shower you with care, but eventually try to control your every move through emotional manipulation, who make you feel guilty for any independence, who create crises whenever you focus on yourself, you're dealing with your own unresolved mother complex. Something in you still seeks the perfect nurturing figure, but fears being devoured by her. These relationships follow a pattern. First comes the bliss of being completely taken care of, then the slow realization that this care comes with invisible strings attached. Eventually, you feel trapped but simultaneously afraid to leave, caught between resentment and dependency. 2. The maiden, light. Innocent, spontaneous, shadow, childish, irresponsible. The maiden represents youthful energy, spontaneity, and new beginnings. In her shadow form, she becomes eternally childish, irresponsible, and emotionally unstable. Do you find yourself repeatedly involved with women who initially captivate you with their free spirit and enthusiasm, only to later exhaust you with their emotional volatility, inability to commit, and refusal to take responsibility? This pattern reveals your own unintegrated maiden energy, perhaps your own fear of responsibility, your own unacknowledged desire to escape adult demands. These relationships typically begin with intoxicating freedom and adventure, then deteriorate into exhausting emotional roller coasters where you find yourself playing the responsible adult to her eternal child. 3. The Amazon, light, independent, powerful, shadow, domineering, emasculating. The Amazon represents female strength, independence, and self-sufficiency. In her shadow form, she becomes coldly domineering, competitive with men, and ultimately emasculating. If you consistently attract strong, independent women who initially inspire you but eventually make you feel inadequate, who compete with you rather than compliment you, who seem to take pleasure in pointing out your weaknesses, you're confronting your own complex relationship with female power. Part of you is drawn to strength but fears being diminished by it. These relationships often start with admiration for her capabilities and confidence, then shift into power struggles where you feel increasingly diminished, questioned, and undermined. 4. The medial woman, light, intuitive, transformative, shadow, manipulative, chaotic. The medial woman represents intuition, mystery, and transformation. In her shadow form, she becomes manipulative, intentionally mysterious to control, and creates chaos to maintain power. Do you repeatedly find yourself mesmerized by enigmatic, unpredictable women who seem to have an almost supernatural understanding of your inner world, only to later discover they use this insight to manipulate your emotions? Women who create drama seemingly from nowhere, who withdraw emotionally without explanation, who make you feel crazy for questioning their contradictions. You're encountering your own unintegrated relationship with the feminine mysteries, your fascination with the unknown aspects of the feminine, but also your fear of being manipulated by what you don't understand. Here's the revelation that will transform your understanding of these patterns. These women aren't the problem. They never were. As Jung famously said, everything that irritates us about others can lead us to an understanding of ourselves. The real confrontation isn't with them, it's with you. With your unconscious refusal to emotionally mature, with your unacknowledged desire to be saved by a woman, with your pursuit of intensity that masks your fear of genuine affection. These women manipulate because you surrender without discernment. They control because you delegate your sovereignty. They disappear emotionally because you've never been emotionally present with yourself. The toxicity you perceive in them is the unheard cry of your own soul demanding transformation. When you blame toxic women for your relationship patterns, you miss the profound psychological truth Jung was pointing to. What you most strongly react to in others is a direct pathway to your own unconscious. The intensity of your emotional reaction, whether desire or disgust, is proportional to the importance of what that person represents in your own psyche. This doesn't mean these women's behaviors aren't genuinely harmful. It means that your specific attraction to them, your inability to see the red flags, your repeated returns despite the pain, These are not random events but psychologically determined patterns. You are not a victim of circumstance but a participant in an unconscious process seeking resolution. The most transformative moment in a man's relational life comes when he finally sees that the women who have caused him the most pain were not sent to destroy him but to initiate him. Each toxic relationship has been attempting to force into consciousness what you have refused to see, the wounded, undeveloped, or rejected aspects of your own inner feminine nature. When you project your anima onto women, you don't see them as they are. You see them through the distorted lens of your own unintegrated feminine aspects. And because nature abhors a vacuum, women who themselves embody these same unintegrated qualities are magnetically drawn to you. Not because they consciously choose to hurt you, but because they too are caught in their own unconscious patterns, their own unintegrated animus, inner masculine, seeking expression and healing. This is why simply avoiding toxic women never works. You can change the faces, but the dynamic remains because you carry the pattern within you. You haven't changed the internal template that created the attraction in the first place. The healing you seek doesn't lie in avoiding these women. It lies in becoming conscious of your own anima, in knowing, integrating, and loving this inner feminine aspect that has been ignored, sexualized, or rejected. When you mature your relationship with this archetype, you stop attracting women who dramatize your wound and begin relating to those who reflect your wholeness. The real reason you attract toxic women isn't bad luck, it's unconscious destiny. And the only way to break the cycle is to become conscious and responsible for everything you've projected onto them. Jung didn't invite us to judge, he invited us to see. Start by examining your relationship patterns with complete honesty. Which feminine archetype consistently appears in your life? What does she reflect about your own inner feminine? What qualities do you admire in women but deny in yourself? What aspects of the feminine do you fear or reject? The journey toward wholeness begins with this radical self-honesty. It continues with the deliberate integration of these disowned aspects of yourself. This doesn't mean becoming more feminine or in the conventional sense. It means becoming more complete as a human being, embracing the full spectrum of human qualities regardless of gender associations. As you integrate your anima, something remarkable happens. You begin to see women clearly, perhaps for the first time, not as projections of your needs and fears, not as saviors or destroyers, but as complex human beings on their own journey of integration. The attraction patterns that once seemed like fate now reveal themselves as choices you're free to make consciously. This integration process isn't quick or easy. It requires courage to face the parts of yourself you've denied for so long. It demands that you sit with uncomfortable emotions, vulnerability, dependence, irrationality, emotional sensitivity, that you may have spent a lifetime running from or projecting onto women. It means recognizing that what you've labeled as feminine weakness might actually be human depth you've denied yourself access to. Each time you catch yourself being inexplicably attracted to a woman who embodies familiar destructive patterns, pause. Ask yourself, what is it in me that recognizes something in her? What wound or need does she represent? What aspect of my own inner feminine am I seeing reflected in her behavior? This isn't about blaming yourself for others and harmful actions. It's about reclaiming your power to choose consciously rather than being driven by unconscious forces. It's about taking responsibility for your patterns without shame or self-condemnation, but with the compassionate understanding that all human beings are works in progress. Remember that integration doesn't mean perfection. Even Jung himself acknowledged that we never fully integrate our shadow or completely balance our inner masculine and feminine. What matters is the conscious relationship we develop with these inner forces. When you're aware of your projections, they lose their power to control your choices. The most profound transformation occurs when you begin to relate to your anima directly, through dream work, active imagination, creative expression, or meditation, rather than exclusively through relationships with external women. When you develop this internal relationship, external relationships naturally shift from projection-driven compulsions to conscious connections. This isn't just about improving your relationships with women. It's about healing the fundamental split in your own psyche, the division between conscious and unconscious, between what you acknowledge and what you deny. It's about becoming whole. And in that wholeness lies a freedom you may have never known. The freedom to love without the distortions of projection, to see clearly without the filters of unmet needs, to connect authentically without the barriers of fear. How does this perspective change your understanding of your past relationships? Can you now see the patterns that were invisible before? Share your personal experiences in the comments below. Has a specific feminine archetype repeatedly appeared in your life? What do you think this reveals about your own inner work? Like this video if these insights resonated with you. Subscribe to continue this journey into the depths of psychological truth. And don't miss our previous videos exploring other aspects of Jungian psychology and its practical applications in your life. Remember, the greatest journey isn't finding the perfect woman, it's becoming the integrated man who no longer needs projection to feel complete. That journey begins now, with your willingness to see yourself clearly and completely. The toxic relationships of your past weren't failures. They were invitations to this deeper work of soul-making that Jung considered the true purpose of human life.